The message popped up at 6:12 a.m., and it ruined everything. "My dad wants to see you. I told him I slept at your house." Ethan stared at the screen like it had personally betrayed him. His phone buzzed again, like it wanted to twist the knife. "He's flying in today." "Damn," Ethan muttered, rubbing his face. His apartment was dead quiet except for the low hum of the fridge and the faint sound of the city waking up outside. The couch still smelled like her shampoo. Vanilla something. He hated that his brain noticed stuff like that. He hadn't planned for this. He hadn't planned for her either. Ethan was a single dad with a tight schedule, a 5-year-old daughter named Lucy, and a life built on not letting things get complicated. No drama, no rich people, definitely no billionaire fathers who owned half the damn tech world. And yet, here he was. He rolled off the couch and stood there for a second, just breathing. The floor was cold. His back hurt. His head hurt worse. He glanced toward Lucy's room. Door closed. Still asleep. Good. He needed a minute to freak out like a responsible adult. Last night wasn't supposed to be a thing. It was supposed to be a drink after work. Maybe 2. They'd laughed, talked trash about their jobs, bonded over being tired all the time. She'd stayed because it was late, then because it was raining, then because, well, hell, because they wanted to. Now her dad was flying in on a private jet to see him. Ethan typed, deleted, typed again. Why would you tell him that? The reply came fast. Because he already suspected something. And because I panicked. I'm sorry. He sighed. Yeah, that sounded like her. Brilliant CEO, ran a billion-dollar company without blinking, but still panicked like a normal person when it came to family. Funny how that worked. He leaned against the counter and stared at the coffee maker like it owed him answers. He wasn't intimidated easily. He'd handled custody battles, sleepless nights, and a toddler who once flushed his car keys down a toilet. But this was new territory. A knock hit the door behind him. Not loud, not aggressive. Just there. Ethan froze. Another knock, softer this time. "Ethan," her voice called. "You awake?" He closed his eyes. Of course she was awake. Of course she'd sensed the universe shifting. "Yeah," he called back. "Give me a second." He opened the door to find her standing there in one of his hoodies, hair messy, eyes nervous but trying to act cool about it. She looked nothing like the woman whose face was on business magazines. No makeup, no armor, just human. "I messed up," she said immediately. "Yup," he replied, "big time." She winced. "He's not terrible, just intense. Billionaire intense, or normal dad intense?" Ethan asked. She hesitated. That was all the answer he needed. From down the hall, Lucy's door creaked open. "Daddy?" she called sleepily. Both of them turned, and just like that, the situation went from complicated to holy hell. Ethan exhaled slowly. This was about to get messy. Before we continue the story, let me know in the comments how you liked it and where you're watching from. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe for more content. Lucy padded into the living room in her unicorn pajamas, dragging her blanket like it was an emotional support item. Her hair was a disaster, a cute one. The kind that made Ethan's chest ache a little every time. She squinted at the woman standing by the door. "Hi," Lucy said. "Hey," she replied softly, crouching a bit like she wasn't sure of the rules. "Good morning." Lucy looked up at Ethan. "Who's she?" Ethan opened his mouth, closed it. Damn, he was usually good at this stuff. Honest, simple, age-appropriate. But explaining this before coffee felt illegal. "She's a friend," he said. "Her name's Claire." Lucy nodded like she was filing that away for later interrogation. "She slept here." Claire's eyes widened. Ethan shot her a look that said, "Do not say a word." "Yeah," he said quickly. "It was late." Lucy accepted that with the ease of a kid who had bigger priorities. "Can we have waffles?" "Yep," Ethan said. "Go sit. I'll make them." Lucy shuffled off, blanket trailing behind her. The second she was out of earshot, Claire whispered, "I'm really sorry." "I know," Ethan said. He ran a hand through his hair. But next time, maybe don't tell your billionaire dad you slept at my place without checking. There was no time, she said. He called at midnight. He was already suspicious. She stopped, took a breath. I didn't want to lie about you. That landed heavier than he expected. Ethan turned toward the kitchen. Coffee? Yes, please. Black, no sugar. Figures, he muttered. They moved around each other in that awkward, quiet way people do when something huge is hanging in the air. He poured batter into the waffle iron. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching him like she was trying to memorize the moment. So, he said, not looking at her. When exactly is he landing? 11, she replied. He wants lunch. Ethan snorted. Of course he does. He asked about you, she added. That got his attention. Asked what? What kind of man lets a woman stay over when he has a kid? Ethan turned slowly. And? I said you're careful. And kind. And that you didn't know who I was when we met. His jaw tightened. That last part mattered more than she probably realized. Lucy reappeared, climbed onto her chair, and immediately started talking about her dream involving a dragon and a skateboard. Ethan listened, nodded, flipped waffles. Claire watched the whole thing like it was something rare. You don't look like what he expects, Claire said quietly. What does he expect? Ethan asked. A guy with an angle. Ethan laughed once, short and humorless. Yeah, nope, don't have one. They ate together. Lucy asked Claire a million questions. Claire answered all of them like she wasn't terrified. When Lucy went to brush her teeth, Claire leaned closer. He's going to want to meet you properly, she said, and when he does, he won't be polite. Ethan wiped his hands on a towel. Good, neither am I. She smiled at that, nervous, real. The clock ticked louder than it should have. 11 was coming fast. By 10:30, Ethan had already changed his shirt twice and hated both options. The clean button-down made him feel like he was trying too hard. The old hoodie made him feel like he wasn't trying at all. He settled on a plain dark t-shirt and jeans. Neutral. Honest. If a billionaire didn't like it, well, that sounded like a him problem. Claire paced his living room, phone in hand, checking the time like it might bite her. He's early, she said. Of course he is, Ethan replied. Private jet people don't respect clocks. Lucy sat on the floor coloring, blissfully unaware that a walking bank account was about to invade her space. Ethan crouched beside her. Hey, Lou, he said gently. A guest is coming over. He's Claire's dad. Lucy looked up. Is he nice? Ethan paused. He's important to her. Lucy considered that. Okay, that was it. That was all the emotional prep a 5-year-old needed. Meanwhile, Ethan felt like he was about to step into traffic. The knock came right on cue, firm, confident, the kind of knock that assumed the door would open. Claire froze. I've got it, Ethan said, already moving. He opened the door and immediately understood why people described certain men as having presence. The guy was tall, silver-haired, perfectly dressed without looking like he tried. Calm smile, sharp eyes, the kind that didn't miss details. Ethan Walker, the man said, extending a hand. Richard Hale, billionaire father, CEO maker, human pressure cooker. Ethan shook his hand. Firm grip, no flinching. Nice to meet you. Richard's gaze flicked past him, scanning the apartment. Clean but lived in. Toys in the corner. Crayons on the table. May I come in? Richard asked. You're already halfway there, Ethan replied, stepping aside. Claire let out a breath she'd clearly been holding. Dad. Claire, Richard said, kissing her cheek. Then his eyes went to Lucy. And who is this? Lucy looked up. I'm Lucy. Well, Richard said, kneeling slightly. It's very nice to meet you, Lucy. She studied him like a scientist. You're fancy. Ethan bit back a laugh. Claire absolutely did not. Richard smiled. I suppose I am. He straightened and turned to Ethan. Lunch? Ethan raised an eyebrow. Sure. There's a diner down the street, best grilled cheese in the city. Richard hesitated, just for a second. Perfect, he said. They left Lucy with the neighbor who already knew more about Ethan's life than he liked and walked in awkward silence to the diner. The place smelled like grease and coffee and old booths. No white tablecloths, no servers in suits. Richard sat, adjusted his cufflinks, and looked around. Interesting choice. Yeah, Ethan said. I don't do power lunches. Neither do I, Richard replied smoothly. I do evaluations. There it was. So, Richard continued, folding his hands, you didn't know who my daughter was? Nope, Ethan said. Thought she was just tired and sarcastic. Claire shot him a look. Richard smiled thinly. And now you do, Richard said. Does that change anything? Ethan met his gaze. Only thing that changed is I'm annoyed you're asking. Silence. Heavy. Then, Richard laughed. Not fake, not polite, real. Well, he said, this should be interesting. The waitress dropped 3 menus on the table like she'd done it 1,000,000 times and didn't care who anyone was. Ethan liked her immediately. Coffee? She asked. Yes, Richard said. Yes, Claire said. Yes, Ethan said. And maybe keep it coming. She nodded and walked off. Richard leaned back in the booth, studying Ethan like a chessboard. You're not nervous. I am, Ethan said. I'm just not letting it run the show. Richard smiled faintly. Good answer. Claire shot her dad a look. Can you not interrogate him over eggs? I can, Richard said calmly. And I will, Ethan shrugged. Fair. Richard folded his hands again. You're a single father. Yep. Mother? Not around, Ethan said. No extra detail. No sob story. Richard nodded slowly. And you work? Construction project management, Ethan replied. Not glamorous. Pays the bills. And if it paid more? Richard asked. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then it'd still be the same job. Claire exhaled like she'd been holding that breath since last night. Richard's eyes sharpened. You're not interested in money. I'm interested in stability, Ethan said. There's a difference. The waitress came back with coffee. Steam rose. Time moved again. Richard took a sip. You let my daughter stay the night. I did, Ethan said. She was safe. She wanted to. Nothing shady. Claire blinked. Dad, Richard raised a hand. I believe him. Ethan looked at him, surprised. Richard continued. What I don't believe is that this is casual. Claire stiffened. Ethan didn't deny it. I don't do casual, Ethan said. Not with a kid involved. Richard leaned forward slightly. Then why continue? Ethan met his gaze. Because I like her. Simple. Honest. No spin. The diner noise filled the gap. Forks clinked. Someone laughed too loud in another booth. Richard studied him for a long moment. Then he turned to Claire. You didn't tell me he had a backbone. Claire smirked. You didn't ask. Richard sat back. Here's the problem, Ethan. Figured there'd be one. My world is ruthless, Richard said. People will use her, leverage her, hurt her to get to me. Ethan's voice dropped. I'm not one of those people. I know, Richard said. That's what scares me. Ethan frowned. Why? Because people like you don't usually survive that world intact. Claire's face tightened. Dad, Ethan cut in. Then maybe she doesn't need that world all the time. Silence hit harder this time. Richard's eyes flicked to him, sharp. You think you can protect her? Ethan didn't hesitate. I already do. Just by being real with her. Richard stared. Long, calculating. Then he sighed. You remind me of her mother, he said quietly. Claire froze. Don't. She walked away from all this, Richard said, because she wanted a normal life. Ethan felt something shift. And did she get it? Richard looked down at his coffee. For a while, that was enough. Ethan didn't push. The waitress brought food. Plates clattered. Normal things. The world pretending this wasn't a turning point. Richard finally looked up. If this continues, it won't be easy. Ethan nodded. Most things worth doing aren't. Richard smiled. Not thin this time. Real. Respectful. We'll see, he said. Lunch ended without fireworks, which somehow made it worse. No threats, no ultimatums. Just a quiet understanding that something had shifted and nobody was fully in control anymore. Richard paid the bill despite Ethan reaching for it first, then stood like a man who never rushed unless he chose to. "I have meetings," Richard said. "Claire, we'll talk later." She nodded. "I know." He turned to Ethan one last time. "Walk me out?" "Sure." They stepped onto the sidewalk. The city noise hit them like reality crashing back in. Richard stopped near the curb. "You're not intimidated by me," Richard said. Ethan shrugged. "I've dealt with worse." Richard chuckled. "Everyone says that. Few mean it." "I do," Ethan said. "Because you're just a dad worried about his kid. I get that." Richard studied him again. "If you hurt her." "I won't," Ethan said. Calm, flat, final. Richard nodded once. "Good." A black car pulled up like it had been waiting for the cue. Richard opened the door, paused. "You should know," he said. "Attention will follow you now." Ethan smirked. "I don't even have social media." "That may not save you," Richard replied, then got in and drove off. Claire exhaled the second the car disappeared. "Well, you survived." "Yeah," Ethan said. "Did I pass?" She gave a half smile. "You didn't fail." They walked back in silence for a block. Then Claire stopped. "I should probably go," she said. "I've got damage control to do." Ethan nodded. "Lucy'll be back in an hour." Claire hesitated. "About us?" He met her eyes. "I'm not backing off because he's rich." "I know," she said. "I just don't want this to hurt you. Or Lucy." "That's the line," Ethan said. "You cross it, we're done." She nodded immediately. No arguing, no ego. "Fair." She leaned in, kissed his cheek, soft, careful, then walked away. Ethan stood there longer than he meant to. Back home, Lucy barreled into him when he picked her up. "Did the fancy man like waffles?" "He didn't try them," Ethan said. "His loss." She grinned. "Good." That night, Ethan put Lucy to bed and stared at his phone for a long time. Messages were already piling up. Unknown numbers. Missed calls. One text stood out. "Private number, we'd like to discuss a consulting opportunity." He deleted it. Another buzz. "Claire, you okay?" He typed back. "Yeah, but this is already bleeding into my life." Dots appeared, disappeared. Then, "Claire, I know. I didn't expect it to be this fast." Ethan sat on the couch, feeling the weight of it all. The attention, the risk. The kid sleeping down the hall. Another text came in. Different number. "Richard Hale's office. Please call at your earliest convenience." Ethan laughed quietly. "Hell no." He turned the phone face down. Whatever this was becoming, it wasn't staying small. And that scared him more than Richard ever could. The next morning, Ethan found a man in a suit standing outside his building. Not leaning, not checking his phone, just standing there like a problem waiting to be acknowledged. Ethan slowed. "Can I help you?" The man smiled politely. Too polite. "Ethan Walker?" "Depends who's asking." "Marcus Levin, Mr. Hale's chief of staff." Ethan exhaled through his nose. "Of course you are." Marcus nodded like he'd expected that reaction. "May we talk?" "Nope." Marcus didn't move. 5 minutes. Ethan glanced back at the building, then at his watch. Lucy was already at school. He was late for work anyway. "Damn." 2, Ethan said. On the sidewalk, Marcus accepted that like a concession. "Mr. Hale is concerned." "Yeah, I got that vibe. He'd like to make certain things easier for you." Ethan laughed. "There it is." Marcus stayed calm. "Relocation assistance, a better school district, security if needed." "I don't need a better life," Ethan snapped. "I need my life." Marcus nodded slowly. "You're missing the point." "No," Ethan said. "I'm hitting it dead on. This is how your world works. You throw money at discomfort until it shuts up." Marcus's smile faded a notch. "This isn't a bribe." "Then what is it?" A warning wrapped in concern. Ethan stepped closer. Here's mine. You don't show up at my home again. Marcus held his gaze, then nodded. Understood. He walked away, already dialing someone. Ethan stood there for a long second, then muttered, "Damn it, Claire." At work, his boss pulled him aside before he even sat down. "Hey," she said carefully. "You know a Richard Hale?" Ethan closed his eyes. "I'm gonna say yes." "He called," she said. "Asked about you. Offered funding for our next project." Ethan felt the room tilt. "And?" "I said hell no," she said. "Because it smelled weird." Relief hit hard. "Thank you." She studied him. "What did you get yourself into?" Ethan didn't answer. That night, Claire showed up unannounced. No makeup, no heels, just jeans and exhaustion. "They're crossing lines," she said immediately. "I told him not to." Ethan crossed his arms. "Too late." "I know," she said. "I didn't think he'd move this fast." "Welcome to my world," Ethan replied. "Where things affect my kid." That landed hard. "I'll stop it," Claire said. "I promise." Ethan shook his head. "You can't." "Not really." She swallowed. "So what are you saying?" He hesitated. This was the moment, the one he'd been avoiding. "I'm saying I don't know if this is survivable," he said. "Not like this." Claire's eyes burned. "I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose my daughter," Ethan said softly. Silence stretched between them. Then Claire said, "What if I step away?" Ethan looked up. "From what?" "From the company," she said. "From him. I've been thinking about it for years." His heart pounded. "That's not a small thing." "I know," she said. "But neither are you." Ethan ran a hand over his face. "Don't do that for me." "I'm not," she said. "I'm doing it because I'm tired of living someone else's expectations." He believed her. That scared him even more. A knock came at the door. They both froze. Ethan moved first, peered through the peephole. 2 men, suits, no smiles. "Yeah," he muttered. "This is escalating." Ethan didn't open the door. He stood there, heart pounding, listening to the knock hit again. Harder this time. Not angry, just confident. Like they knew how this usually went. Claire whispered, "Who is it?" "Not Girl Scouts," Ethan said. He took a breath and opened the door just enough to make a point. "Yeah?" The taller guy spoke first. "Mr. Walker, we're with Hale Security." "Nope," Ethan said immediately. "You're not." The guy blinked. "Excuse me?" "You're not coming in," Ethan said. "You're not standing in my hallway. You're not talking to me or my kid. So whatever this is ends right now." The second guy shifted. Subtle, trained. That pissed Ethan off more than it should have. "We're here to ensure safety," the tall one said. "There's been media interest." Claire stepped forward into view. "I told you to stop this." Both men stiffened. "Miss Hale." "Claire," she snapped. "And I said stop." Silence. Then the taller guy nodded once. "Understood. We'll report back." "You do that," Ethan said, "and tell Richard if anyone shows up here again, I'm filing a restraining order." That did it. The guy's jaw tightened. They left without another word. Ethan closed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. "Jesus," Claire said. "I'm so sorry." "This is exactly what I was afraid of," Ethan said. "Control disguised as protection." She nodded, eyes glossy. "I know." His phone buzzed almost immediately. "Richard, this is getting out of hand." Ethan stared at the screen, then typed, "No. You made it out of hand." A pause. Then, "Richard, you're putting my daughter at risk." Ethan laughed out loud. "Unbelievable." He typed back. "Your people just showed up at my door. Near my kid. You don't get to talk about risk." Dots appeared. Stayed. Disappeared. Claire whispered, "He's not used to being challenged." "Yeah," Ethan said. "Neither was my ex." Didn't go great for her either. Claire flinched. "Ethan, I'm not threatening him," Ethan said. "I'm drawing a line." Another message came in. "Richard, meet me. Alone. Tonight." Ethan showed Claire the phone. No, she said immediately. I think I have to, Ethan replied. Ethan, he'll pressure you. He already is, Ethan said. At least this way it's direct. She grabbed his arm. Please don't do this without me. He met her eyes. I need to do this for Lucy. That shut her up. Night fell heavy and fast. Richard's penthouse was exactly what Ethan expected. Glass, steel, silence. The city laid out beneath them like a toy. Richard stood by the window, hands behind his back. You're stubborn, Richard said without turning. So I've been told, Ethan replied. Richard faced him. I don't lose. Ethan nodded. Neither do I. Richard studied him. What do you want? Boundaries, Ethan said. You stay out of my life, out of my work, out of my kids' world. And Claire, that's her choice, Ethan said. Not yours, not mine. Richard exhaled slowly. You're asking me to let go. Ethan shrugged. Yeah, it sucks. You'll live. Richard was quiet for a long time. Then he said, if she walks away from the company, it will cost her billions. Ethan didn't blink. Money's replaceable. Richard laughed bitterly. You really believe that? I do, Ethan said, because I've lived without it, and I'm still standing. Richard stared at him. Something in his expression cracked. Just a little. Get out, Richard said. Ethan turned and walked away without looking back. His phone buzzed as he entered the elevator. Claire, did you survive? He typed. Yeah. But everything's about to change. The change didn't come like an explosion. It came quiet. 2 days passed, then 3. No suits, no black cars, no random calls offering opportunities. The noise just stopped. That scared Ethan more than the chaos ever did. On the 4th morning, Claire showed up with coffee and red eyes. I resigned, she said. Ethan stared at her. You what? I stepped down, she repeated. Board vote scheduled. My shares are locked, but I'm out. That's... He stopped himself. That's huge. Yeah, she said. Dad hasn't spoken to me since. They stood there, the weight of it pressing down hard. Lucy ran in, saw Claire, smiled, and immediately started showing her a picture she'd drawn. Is this us? Claire asked, pointing. Lucy nodded. That's me and Daddy and you. And the cat we don't have yet. Ethan snorted. Claire laughed through tears. Later that night, Richard Hale called. Ethan answered without hesitation. She's really doing it, Richard said. Yes, Ethan replied. Silence stretched. Then, I taught her to be fearless, Richard said quietly. I didn't teach her how to walk away. Ethan leaned against the counter. You taught her strength. This is just a different kind. Another pause. You win, Richard said. Ethan frowned. This wasn't a game. Richard exhaled. Then take care of her. I already am, Ethan said. The line went dead. Months passed. Life settled. Claire took time off. Real time. Mornings with coffee. Evenings with Lucy. No assistants. No meetings. Just figuring things out like normal people. One night, after Lucy fell asleep, Claire sat beside Ethan on the couch. Do you ever regret this? She asked. He thought about it, the stress, the fear, the standing his ground. Nope, he said. Do you? She shook her head. Not even a little. Ethan kissed her forehead. The apartment felt full in a way money never could. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, they finally weren't running anymore.